Hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and it is Friday lunchtime here in southern British Columbia in Canada. And that means that we're going to be talking about coping with our feelings. And today, I had, luckily, not necessarily luckily, but I had two pieces of mail that came to me this week, one through social media and one through email. And they both, in a way, dealt with bullying. And I thought that I would use that as a topic because I think that there's some really big lessons to be learned from both stories. And I thought, boy, you guys probably would really enjoy that. And before I get on to that, I just wanted to tell you that I went to my postbox and there was this incredibly squishy parcel for me, and I had no idea what it was. And I unwrapped it, and I couldn't do it live because, there's some parcels where you're going, I have no idea what this is, therefore, nor do I know who it's from. So I couldn't contact them and say, is it safe for me to open it online? But what I wanted to show you was Rinsky, bless her heart, for those of you who know our viewer, Rinsky, knitted me this incredible throw blankie to keep me warm. And it was just like, isn't that the cutest thing to have around my shoulders at night or, when I'm busy working? And I was just so delighted with it all. By the way, hi to Jeannie, who tells me that the weather in Maine is pretty darn cool. It's below, actually, it's 20 degrees there, I think. So that is pretty chilly. So keep warm. And yeah, isn't it pretty? And apparently she's just learning how to do it. And the fact that she did it and sent it to me, and also that she did it in gray to match my new house colors. For those of you who don't know, I am living in a rented apartment at the moment. But I will be returning home. I just heard late yesterday, I will be returning home before the end of March. I mean, not even April, before the end of March, like in the next couple of weeks, people. That's going to be pretty scary. Let's go back to the topic and we can talk about the house and stuff later. Because to me, it's like, I am somebody who's suffered from being bullied. So I have a lot of understanding of this from a personal level, but also I understand about abuse, and I allowed people to abuse me for the longest time. And what I wanted to do was to make sure that we understand where the balance is with all of these. So before we get on to that, a couple of things I wanted to say to you. For those of you who might be new to the broadcast, welcome. We at DearMamaSal are a group of people who get together. We're like an extended family. That's what we like to believe. Extended family of people who get together 3 times a week. This broadcast at a lunchtime, Pacific time, here in southern British Columbia, where we talk about coping with our feelings. And then again on Friday evenings at 7 o'clock Pacific, where we talk about coping with life. And I'll be doing more stories about my home then. And then on a Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock, 3:30 Pacific time, we talk about coping with stress. And believe you me, I've been sitting around doing diddly for about 5 months now, here away from my home. And suddenly the wheels are coming off all over the place. I'm being asked to make all sorts of decisions, and I'm having to do all sorts of things that it's all coming down the track at me at the moment. So I want to talk to you about how I am juggling that and how I'm working to keep sane. In case anybody has anything that they specifically want to talk about today, let me know early so that I know how much time to leave at the end so we can discuss it. And in the meantime, I'm going to carry on. Now, the first story that I have was with a viewer that I don't get to speak to a great deal, but she does get hold of me when she's got certain things going on. And I just want to repeat to all of you, know that that's who I am and what I do. So if you get into a situation where you don't know what to do, feel free to write to me at dearmamasal@gmail.com. And for those of you who might need it, I do some one-on-one work if anybody should need it. So here's the thing. I got this note that came in from one of my viewers. And what she said was, and I'm just getting the whiteboard here in case I need it. What she said was that she was in a job and that 2 different managers had left the job, and she was now doing her job plus the job of these 2 different managers. Now, what I want to do is, as I'm talking through these things, if you happen to have a piece of paper and a pencil nearby, write down what your feelings are as you hear these stories, all right? Because that's what I want to discuss. When you hear this, what do you feel? And so anyway, so she's saying, I'm doing the job of my job plus the job of these 2 other people who went away and didn't come back again. And then what she did was she applied for the top job. She reckoned she was doing it anyway, so why not apply for it? And the company with whom she was working said, actually, no, you don't have enough experience, so we're bringing somebody else in. But in the meantime, we'd like you to carry on doing what you've been doing. And we'll give you another $1.50 an hour for doing that. So what are your feelings when you hear this story? Do you think that this viewer is being abused? Do you think that she needs to take some action? What do you feel? And that's what I want to talk about, because different people will feel differently about this. And then what I'd like you to, when we've talked about that a bit, I'd like to then tell you what the viewer and I talked about and how she feels. So, facts are, she's already doing her job. 2 different people have left, and she's ended up doing both their jobs as well. She applied for the job, the top job of those 2, and they said, no, she doesn't have enough experience, even though she's been there, by the way, for some time. But they did offer to pay her an extra $1.50. Jody is shocked. Is that a shocked emoji? Jody, forgive me. I'm not 100% sure what that emoji says, but I think it's shock. And does anybody have any words they want to put around it? And because to me, it's about, one of the things about our feelings is to put words to them. Okay, so Jody's confirming, yes, shocked and also a little bit PO'd about it. All right, so I think that's quite normal. And that, quite honestly, when I first heard it, as I was reading this, I also, my eyes went up a bit as I was reading it, went, really? Yeah, nice one. And so do you think that the viewer is being abused? Or if you don't think she is, then tell me why not. And, that's the point that I want to get at. Do you believe that this viewer is being abused in any way? And while you're just typing that up, I just want to say something about bullying has been in the news this week, because I don't know if you saw that, but the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle it was, has been accused of bullying her staff when she was at Kensington Palace. And the interesting thing is that there's now an investigation going on into that. Now, what amazed me, and you will forgive me for this, but you know me, I have opinions. What absolutely amazed me was that Prince Andrew was associated with Jeffrey Epstein and child abuse and wasn't investigated, but Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, has allegedly been accused of bullying somebody, and she's being investigated. I don't know about you, there's a double standard somewhere there, and one that I'm not totally comfortable with. All right, so Jeannie's saying, sounds like she was taken advantage of, but I was in her situation years ago. I worked hard to fill both positions. Yeah, the interesting thing is the hierarchy of this. If I understood it correctly, Jeannie, just so that you know, that there were two positions, this top position, and then an assistant position, and then the viewer has this other assistant position, if I remember it correctly. So she's doing this job and doing this job. And she applied, obviously, for the top job. Jodie's saying, yes, they could give her additional formal training they think she needs, but clearly she's qualified to stand in and do the job while they find their perfect candidate. No way. Okay. So as long as we've got those feelings of anger or frustration or whatever it is that it is, but I know this viewer really well. And so I said to her, well, luckily, you know both sides to the story. So I want to show you both sides. Number one is, what if she is a victim? And that means that she feels they are abusing her, because they are, what are they doing? They're using her talent, for very little money, like one bit, like 50 an hour. And I'm certain that top job pays more than that. No, I'm not, I presume. And that she has no choice. This would all be victim thinking, right? Would you agree? They're doing it to her. And the good news is that I know the viewer pretty well, and she and I have, worked through a lot of stuff together. And what I said to her, what position are you in? Are you in victor or victim? And victor thinking is completely different, which says, hey, their business. Their business, they can do what they like. It's none of my business, right? It's not my business. It's their choices to make. Their choice to do whatever they want within their business, but also my choice to put up with it. Can you see that as a different mentality? And my choice to put up with it because right now it suits me. All right? And so to me, this is like, which one are you in? Do you feel like you're a victim to the situation, or are you totally aware of these facts and that you are just going, that you're going to go along with it? That's one choice. Or secondly, that you're going to go along with it until you can, until the economy turns around, and then you'll be looking for something else. And do you understand that there are two different ways of looking at that completely? And so, to me, we make these decisions on that sort of thing all the time. And the most important part of this is it is their business, and they have the right to put who they want in, not necessarily who you want in. Yes, and Ginny, I understand Ginny's saying in her situation, she was the top dog, and she had two people underneath her. And what she did was fill both those jobs. She did them until she could fill those jobs. Yes, absolutely. And that normally is a management thing. This is a reverse where this viewer is lower on the totem pole and she's doing the two higher jobs. And she actually applied for them as well. Hi, Leo. Good to see you. And we are not quite into spring yet. So it's not quite summer 2021. But thank you for letting us know. I always appreciate it when you come in and tell us what day of the year it is and what we're looking forward to. So I look at it and go, just remember, we are not a victim unless we choose to be. And so therefore, you understand that her choice was, I understand what's going on. I don't particularly like it, but I choose to put up with it until the economy turns around and I can get another job, because obviously these people do not appreciate the talent that I bring. I also said to her, you know, the other thing I know about you is you are extremely good at doing things, and I've known you for a long time, and therefore, you know, hold out long enough and they're going to give you the job anyway, because, you know, they're going to keep losing people higher up the chain. Oh, is it Pride Month coming up? That's great. Thanks for letting me know that as well. Yes, I appreciate that. Yes, and Jeannie's saying the same thing. She loved her job, so she put up with it. Exactly. And that is a choice. That is not being, that, you know, you get to choose that. And if you say, I know what's going on, and I choose to go along with it because I love my job, that is not being a victim. That's making a conscious decision based on the facts. Make sense? So the second story I've got to tell you is a little bit more complicated. But before I do that, I wanted to show you my living edible garden here. But I thought you'd be amazed to see this. I cut up a cabbage this week, and I decided I'd put the stalk bit, you know, the bit at the bottom, into some water. And this is in a week. Look at this. You see all the roots growing there? Whoops. Did you see all those roots? Isn't that amazing? And that's just in a week. And now the green leaves are coming, which is, of course, what I was interested in. And you remember last week I talked about bok choy. Well, Jody, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, Jody is our admin. Jody, I threw the bok choy into some water as well. And look at that, it's got leaves already. And this is my romaine lettuce. This is butter, 2 butter lettuces that are still growing. This is also a romaine. And this is a leek that's growing, growing very well, apparently. And the reason I know it's growing very well, apparently, is because when I put it here, it was underneath the lampshade. And not underneath the lampshade yet, and now it is. So I wanted to show you that if you wanted to have a living garden in your home, just have it under a light that you have on most of the time, or keep one light on all night. I have one light that I keep on all night, and I keep my seedlings underneath it, right? So they've always got light because that's what they need to grow. So, but this is like, I just know that this light is on for quite a bit of the day, and therefore it's a good light to have some greenery under. So interesting and simple to do. And how many of you know that when I go to do a salad, I'll take a couple of leaves off here, a couple of leaves off here if I wanted, and put it in with what I've gotten. Any minute now, I'm going to be able to do my stir fries with a couple of fresh growing leaves from my bok choy and from my cabbage. Yay. So simple. And how many of you are going, if you are on your own or just 2 of you, you understand it doesn't take a whole lot of those to make a sustainable, ongoing, non-stop garden. And you don't have to have a garden to do it. You just need to rethink. Now, at the moment, as you can see, I've got these in little Tetra packs that I've had my almond milk in. And they're actually perfect because they will allow a lot of growth of the roots down here. But, you know, when I get back to my house, I will probably build a box specially to go around them. Jody thought she'd start with a basil plant. Yes, or basil, I believe you call it in America. And what a good idea. All right. And I actually have started, you can't see it here, but I've also started peas and beans, spinach, cucumber, kale. I've got all sorts of stuff growing now that I'm about to take back to my other house. All right, let's get on and talk about the other letter that I got. And this is from a viewer that we know, and all of us, have talked to, but asked to remain anonymous. So I was happy to do that. And also this viewers needs to, you understand that when I got this note, I have edited it a little bit here and there. I'm going to paraphrase it. I'm going to use my words around what was said in some of the cases. So what you're going to hear is not what they call verbatim being word for word what I got. I'm going to give you my version of what I read. Jeannie's saying the fact that you have a green thumb means you will continue to have delicious vegetables. Well, that is what my goal is, Jeannie, is to be able to show people that they can have a sustainable garden in their homes. But instead of having a flowering plant, maybe they decide to grow vegetables in a simple way like this. And I can assure you, what fertilizer went in, and what, that it's pure. You haven't got insecticides on it. And also, it is, I love the greenery. I don't know about the rest of you. There's something about that bright green that is wonderful. And of course, when I go home, I've also got a big garden. But here's what I found out, that it gets too hot for lettuce. And so now what I wanted to know, that I realized, was I've just got to keep my lettuce growing. These are all, you do understand, these are all, I had a romaine lettuce and I used nearly all of it, but I kept the center core, and now it's continuing to grow. All right, this is not that I planted the seed. This is a store-bought romaine lettuce. Okay, just like that. And it's just continuing to grow at the moment. Hasn't got roots on it yet. But this was a store-bought leek. And as you know, this has already got, I don't know if you can see that, but it's already got roots coming down. And these two are also store-bought lettuces. So think about that, and think about what can you do, and to feel less of a victim to the price hike that there is in fresh vegetables. And part of me goes, what if we could teach people that can't afford fresh vegetables? And that is my next goal, is how do I get this learning to people who can't afford fresh vegetables, and say to them, you can actually grow vegetables without any major cost to you. If you think about it, each one of these butter lettuces is like $6. I don't know what they are in the States, but here in Canada, I think I pay around $6 for a butter lettuce that is this size. And it lasts me a week. I add a few leaves of butter lettuce and then a few leaves of crunchy romaine. And so, you look at it and you go, what if you didn't have to spend that $6 every week? I'm working out how many of the butter lettuces do I need to have growing at different stages in order to be self-sufficient. I think it's about probably 4 or 5 would do it. And this is a February one. And this one down here, this one, no, this is a March one. And this is a February one that I nearly completely used. So, okay, Jody's saying where she is, a butter lettuce is about $5. That's, so it's relatively cheaper in the States than it is here. By the way, Jeannie, thank you for your comment. She's saying she likes the color. I call it salmon, but, I think color is something that we all see differently. To me, wearing it, I would say it is salmon, but yeah, who knows? But I love it too, because it has a nice feeling of lightness to it, and I like that. All right, let me get on to the second letter that I got. And this letter, I'm going to read it bit by bit, and with your permission, let's talk about it bit by bit. And by the way, those of you watching in the background, welcome. I am always a great believer in I'm delighted when you do that, and you are more than welcome. If you'd like to join in the chat, just know that every now and then I will talk about what's coming up in the chat, or I will leave that towards the end. But the thing is this, that the fact that you listen in the background is wonderful, and I encourage that. And again, remember, if I can help you with anything, or you have a topic about which you'd like me to speak, write to me as these people did. And what I did was, in both cases, I just said, is it okay if I tell the story? But I just won't put names to it. And that's what I will discuss with you. All right, so I want to talk first about what is bullying when we're talking about bullying in the workplace. Workplace abuse is behavior that causes workers emotional or physical harm. Now, again, there is more stuff about this in the news because of what's happened with Governor Cuomo in New York City, or Mayor Cuomo. No, he's governor of New York City, right? So you look at it and you go, this is, he's been accused of being inappropriate in the workplace. And so workplace abuse is behavior that causes workers emotional or physical harm. Harassment, discrimination, bullying, and violence are forms of workplace abuse. These behaviors aren't always distinguishable one from another because they frequently overlap. So the base of it is they are things that make you feel uncomfortable, all right, or that you are being attacked. Now, that is open to a lot of interpretation. So I can say something and be perfectly unaware that I'm abusing somebody, because do you agree that a lot of abuse is in the eye of the receiver? And so I couldn't help but thinking, for example, when I first heard about the Governor Cuomo thing, I kept thinking that, hang on a second, he's Italian. He's a touchy-feely sort of person. The Italians are very tactile people. They always hold you with both hands and kiss you on both cheeks. That's the way that their culture is. And by the way, I don't know if some of you know this, but part of that sort of culture is I hold you with both hands so I don't have a knife or a gun in one of them. And that is an interesting thing. It's the same with shaking hands. You shake hands with your right hand so you can show people, I don't have a gun in it. That was how it started. But, with the Italians, they did a lot of theirs with both hands because, hello, nothing in my hands. How do you know that? I'm touching you with both of them. And so I look at it, when I first heard about this thing, I thought, well, hang on a second, that is cultural. And then when I heard what actually he said, then I went, no, that isn't cultural, that is abusive. But I am also quite certain that he is shaking his head going, what did I know? Hi there, Nadia. Good to hear that you're listening. I love it. So here we go. This is the letter I got. And the viewer said to me that she had been listening to the broadcast for about a year. And she said, I've learned so much. Thank you so much. And of course, I'm delighted to hear that. To give you some context around this, she said, I'm in my late 20s and I started a job 3.5 years ago now. All right. So she's been in this job a long time. 6 months after I started, another woman who is in her 50s also started. All right. So now you've got, she's in her 20s and a woman in her 50s joined the company. However, our viewer said, I'm in a higher position than her. Okay. And that her boss would give stuff to our viewer to do, as well as things for our viewer to show the new person how to do and get her to do. In other words, he gave her work for her and work for her to delegate to the other person. Does that make sense? right off, the boss had both of them, both the young viewer that we have, plus the older woman in his office telling us that what was going to happen, and that he would give the work to the younger viewer here, and then she in turn would delegate it out. So it was very clear what was going to happen. And what the viewer said was she seemed fine with that during the meeting. So she knew that the work I was giving her was because I'd been asked to do that. That I'd been given work that I was meant to delegate to her as per the meeting with the boss. Are everybody clear on that one? Now, here comes the next part, and this has to do with personalities, and I'm certain you've all encountered this one. She's saying, the 50-year-old is very social, and I am more shy. I've overheard her several times talking to other co-workers about how I'm giving her my work, and I do nothing, and she should have my job. What do you guys feel about that? And my question to you as well is, if that were happening to you, what would you do about it? So to me, all right, hang on a second. Jeannie's answering me back on the Como issue. She said, the fact that Como asked each person how she felt towards an older man says to me that he felt he was doing something wrong. He was older, the stronger one in any possible relationship. Yes, absolutely. And as far as I know, in all these cases, the people he was asking were in their 20s. And he was asking them some very inappropriate questions. So I don't believe he's got a leg to stand on here. But, the thing is, Jeannie, the culture in which he grew up and his daddy grew up, all right, that was, not frowned upon. And so a lot of people have got to learn that this is no longer acceptable. And the other thing is, we need to teach our children and our daughters, even if our grown daughters, we need to teach them the words to use when that sort of conversation starts to happen. Because the truth is, it is up to those people, in my view, to say, excuse me, this conversation is way out of line in my view. Please forgive me, but I need to say that because I don't want to hear it again, and get up and leave the room. Right? That is what needs to happen. When somebody starts having an inappropriate conversation with you. And what I've heard is these people say, well, my job was on the line and so forth. And, I want to tell you something. I can remember this happening to me when I was in my 20s, and that was 50 years ago, when I was in a job that was unusual for a woman to have. And I remember somebody, inappropriately contacting me like that. And what I did was I said, you've got 24 hours to get a letter of apology on my desk. Otherwise, your boss is going to hear about this. And by the way, that was the days before we had Instagram, the internet, the days before we had, instant communication. For that person to get a letter of apology on my desk required they do a lot of work. And by the way, I got the letter. Why? It is up to us to have enough self-esteem to say, that is not appropriate. And I just need to leave the room now. And Judy's saying, I have been in relationships with much older men, but they never saw themselves as older and wiser. We felt more equal. Yeah, and that is a different story. So, but I do want to say that it is, I believe we need to teach women how to say enough. Sorry, I need to stop this conversation right here. I don't know where you're going from it, and I'd like to believe it has a good intent, but I want to tell you this is inappropriate to say to somebody today. And I just need to tell you that. And it sends an absolutely strong message. Anyway, go back to my viewer, our viewer. And she said about this woman in her 50s, I also had a couple of co-workers I'm friends with who also walked in on her talking about me. So now, not only did the 50-year-old, know what the story was, now she is busy causing stress and telling lies about the 20-year-old, saying that she's just handing over her work and that the 50-year-old should have her job. And now she's bad-mouthing her as well. And she said, I didn't know what to do. And by the way, she also added, she was socially bullying me as well. In other words, on social media, she was saying bad things. Now, the viewer said, and I figure that people being adults in a professional setting would be mature enough to realize there are two sides to a story and not to assume her words as factual. And that's another question I want to ask you. When people badmouth other people in front of you, do any of you have anything that you say, or do you just let it happen? I found that when somebody badmouths somebody else in front of me, I am inclined to say to them, boy, I wonder what you say about me when I'm not here. And they go, what? And I go, well, I hear you bad-mouthing this person and she's not here to defend herself. So I can't help but wonder if you do the same about me when I'm not here. You see, I think it's important for people to realize that. Now, the viewer went on to say about people trying to find out both sides of the story. She's saying it didn't happen. And what happened, she's become, this 50-year-old has become close with quite a lot of people. And now clearly people are judging her, the younger one. And the reason is because of what the older person has already said, and the complete manipulation and her socially bullying her as well. So here's what she has done. The younger viewer said, I took her aside about 6 months ago, and we talked about 6 months in, and we talked about it. And she said she forgot our boss told her that he's going to give work. That she's going to give work to the young viewer to give to the older co-worker. And then our viewer said, but I don't believe that, because we had a meeting and less than an hour later, he gave me some work to show her how to do. And plus, I'm constantly busy working. I don't have time to hang out and chat with co-workers unless I'm on lunch. So her saying she thought I was giving her all my work just doesn't hold up either. Hi, Kimmy, good to see you. She went on to say, and so talking with her did nothing because she clearly thinks she did nothing wrong. All right? Jeannie's saying, recently somebody said something bad about York. York is her husband. I immediately said, that is not funny. I don't like hearing this. Good. And the woman apologized immediately. I can remember having my mother-in-law walk in and say bad things about my husband one time. And I actually looked at her and I said, I'm going to show you to the door right now because you just badmouthed my husband, who I adore. And that is your right, but you don't get to do it in his house, which is where you are right now. So if you'll just forgive me, I'm going to walk you out the door. And when you've had a chance to think about that, feel free to come back. And she did. I got to give her credit. She came back about 24 hours later and apologized. But I think I sent a pretty strong message to her about, you don't get to badmouth my husband. To go back to the story, The younger viewer said the older person even admitted she talked to the boss about how she does all the younger viewer's work. And she said that the younger viewer was overwhelmed. And then she said they won't fire anybody in this job. In other words, she felt that the young viewer should be fired and she should have the job. And, that's the point that the viewer makes. At first, I was like, this is weird. That's a weird comment. And then I thought about it and realized, wow, she's doing all this to try and get me fired because she wants my job. She said, I really feel like I'm back in high school. It makes me so sad that somebody in their 50s is socially bullying me. I thought people mature with age. And so she asks, do I have any advice? This has been going on for 3 years now, and is there any way I can erase the damage she has done to me socially at work? And thank you for taking the time to read this. Well, here is the thing. First of all, well done to the viewer for writing and talking about it. Because that is, that means that you want to get it fixed. And that's an important thing. So this is called Jody triangulation, I believe. All right, because you've got the boss here who is delegating work to the number one person with the idea that that this number one person, who is our viewer, will then delegate work to number two person. But now this number two person is telling the boss stuff about this person and telling staff members. Now, I've got a feeling that most of my viewers have been around the block a few times. So how do you feel about people when you're in an office environment, if you've ever been in one, who are bad-mouthing other people? How do you feel about them? Do you feel they are good people, or do you feel uncomfortable around them? Because one of the things that I feel is that I agree to some part with the comment that our viewer made, which is, I would have thought that mature people would know better than to do this. It's not high school. And I agree with the thinking, but that also assumes that this person has the knowledge, okay, and self-esteem to be able to do this without all this game playing that she's doing. Because I believe that is what happens, right? It's only insecure people would be doing this. Secure people don't do things like that. And, that to me is an important thing. So now then, if you were this viewer in this situation, and you understand why I drew the triangle, is because this is what's happening. The boss is giving this person stuff to do. This person needs to pass it on to this one, but this one is now causing a scene and telling lies about it. All right, so Jeannie's saying, I'd be watching my back. I would mistrust the person, which is obviously what the viewer feels as well. Does anybody have anything else that they would recommend from your experience of being in that sort of situation? And what I wanted to show you is, how do you get out of triangulation? This can happen to you in a family dynamic. I used to have this in my family where when my father was alive, he would be telling stuff to me and then also telling stuff to my sister, but the stuff was getting all jumbled up. And what I decided to do is I decided to get out of the picture. It's like, really, it's just too painful for me. And obviously neither of them are going to stop doing it. And they were, their interpretation of what I said was not quite what I had said, if you know what I mean. So here's what I would like to recommend to viewer number one. I'm going to call her viewer number one. Is this. First of all, you were given clear instructions from the boss, and number two person was also in that meeting, that what was going to happen. I believe that the way two things are happening, pretty sure that when this person went to the boss to complain, the boss is not stupid. I'm presuming that. And I'm pretty certain the fact that your boss, he or she, gave you the work for you to delegate it was with good reason. He didn't want to get involved here. So he or she. And so as far as I'm concerned, I would give the boss some credit that even though this person is triangulating and going up to the boss and complaining, I'm of the opinion that the boss is not altogether stupid, and that isn't necessarily winning this person any brownie points. Because most bosses I know wouldn't take that very well, because they take it for what it is, somebody trying to rat somebody else out. In the meantime, I'm pretty certain that viewer number one does a very good job, right? I had it happen when I was in my 20s, where somebody in their 50s was already in the company, and she resented to a very large degree that I had the job. And she was doing the same sort of thing to me. And what I did is I called her in one Friday. I sort of lived with it for a while and thought, I'm new, let us settle down. But when it was still going on about a month later, I called her in one Friday afternoon. And I said, I just want to tell you something. I know what you've been doing, bad-mouthing about me behind my back. And obviously, I cannot change who you are and what you feel about me. That only you can do that. But here's what I do need to tell you is I cannot have this work dynamic continue, because it's not good for the rest of the staff, and it certainly isn't good for you. Therefore, here is my solution. You have the weekend to think about it. On Monday, would you please resign? And I'll give you the option to resign or change your attitude, because I'm not going to tolerate it anymore, and I don't want to have to fire you. So, number one, take the weekend to think about it. Come back on Monday. Let me know whether you want to resign because you're unhappy and you think I'm useless. That's your right, but get out of here. Or change your attitude. And the peculiar thing was, she came back on Monday and apologized and said, I have been doing that, and I am sorry. And I was upset because you're so young, but you do know what you're doing. I said, well, I fake it pretty well, yeah. But it doesn't matter whether I know what I'm doing. Somebody thinks I'm capable of doing the job, and it's not for you to judge that. All right, so now, Jonas, hi, Jonas, good to see you. Jonas is asking the question, what if the boss is doing it? Jonas, can you hold on for a little while so I can finish this bit and then I'll turn it around? Are you going to be here for a little while? Because I agree, that's all. Okay, fine. So here's the first thing. The problem obviously lies with the older person who is insecure and self-righteous and all sorts of things. That's fine. That's their stuff. My feeling is this. Most bullies are not brave people. Would you all agree with that? Bullies only get away with their things because people let them. So to me, I'd be saying, I'd be calling them out on the stuff, right? And I would actually say, hey, just want to let you know, which she has done. Number one, I know what you're doing. Number two, let me seek to understand why do you think you're doing this? And number three, what do you intend to do about it? Because I know you've been going to the boss and I know this, that, and the other, but here is the truth, right? Something has to stop here. This is not a good work environment. Yes, Jonas, I agree. Jonas is quoting Eckhart Tolle's comment, power over others is weakness disguised as strength. Yeah. So here we go. I have found that bullies don't do very well when you call them on the fact they're a bully. All right. So the same as, somebody threatened my life here online one time, and I didn't even think twice. I just said to them, just want to tell you that I will be reporting this. And I did. I went to the police. And they were horrified. I mean, they literally came back to me and said, what the heck are you doing, reporting me to the police and doing... I said, you threatened my life. Yeah, I take that very seriously. So to me, anybody who wants to bully me, they're going to come against a brick wall. I believe you're entitled to have your view of me. And boy, I've had more than my fair share online. You're entitled to have your view, but do me a favor. Tell me to my face, or, if you don't like me, you don't have to watch me, right? Go somewhere else. But to me, a bully is only a bully when they're not confronted. The other thing I would do, and I have done this in the past, I don't want to badmouth this person to the boss particularly, because what does that make me? That makes me the same person. So what I would do is I would go to the boss with a hypothetical, that is a pretend thing. And I'd say to the boss, I wonder if I could ask for your help on something. And most bosses will say, sure. And I go, hypothetically, that is, let's imagine, it's not necessarily real. Most bosses are smart enough to know that this is going to be a real story. But hypothetically, if somebody was bad-mouthing me all over the office and on social media and whatever, what would you want me to do about it? You see, most bosses have been through this themselves. And it's a case of what would your boss want you to do about it? Right? And your boss will probably say, well, what do you think you could do? And you could say, well, I could, badmouth the person, but I'm not that sort of person. I just want to do my job. But it's getting difficult to do my job when this person is bad-mouthing me all over the place and it's not fair. One of the things that I did as a boss, if I knew I had two members of staff that were busy in a conflict, I would open up the boardroom and I go, you two in the boardroom right now. And what they would imagine I was about to do was to sit and play mediator to the two of them. And I go, you have got as long as it takes to sort this out between the two of you. And please don't leave the boardroom until you've come up with a win-win for the both of you. This cannot continue. It's disruptive to the office. I really don't want to get involved. So sort it out amongst yourself like adults instead of behaving like children. So please sort it out. And I'd leave the room and close the door. But I did say to them before I left, when you have sorted this out, come and tell me what the solution is. So I know you have sorted it out and I'm aware of what the answer is. All right? Because to me, if they hadn't managed to sort it out, then maybe they needed the training to teach them how to sort it out. how to come to a win-win. So let's now go back to this story and think for a second. And the thinking is, you've often heard me say, seek first to understand, all right? And so what I would do is I would also go to this person and say, look, I'm pretty sure I know what you're saying about me. I'm pretty sure you know that I know you've gone to the boss. Here is the thing. What is your problem? Is it that you want my job? All right? Because when you confront them, I said, because I want to understand what's going on here. As far as I know, I haven't done anything to warrant this behavior. So I'd like to know what's going on here. Jonas is saying, I find with bullies, one tactic that they like to use is to blame you for being offended by saying something like, I don't censor myself to others. What I say what is on my mind. Yeah. And that is in itself, Jonas, in a way, almost abusive as well. But, is it also true of them? And my question is, let me ask you this one, Jonas, because you're a pretty smart cookie. Would you rather have a person that did say what they honestly thought, or would you rather have somebody who, when they're talking to you, pretends that they like you, and when you're not around, then bad mouths you? Jonas is saying that's what one of my coworkers said after speaking to me as though I was a dog. Yes, I had it happen in a boardroom. I want to tell you, with a very powerful boss who talked to me like I was a 4-year-old. And I called him on it. I said to him, are you talking to me? He said, of course I am. I'm looking at you. And I said, no. You're looking at me, but you appear to be talking to a 4-year-old with the language you're using. Therefore, I want to double check. Before I react to this, I want to double check. Am I missing somebody behind me or something? Because the way you're talking to me is like, very condescending, and you sound as though you're talking to a 4-year-old, which, in itself told me an awful lot about what he thought about me. And he said, you don't get to talk to me like that. I said, I agree. Goes both ways. Now, did I know I wasn't going to have that job very long? You bet. But the truth is, if you don't stop bad behavior from people, it's going to continue, is my view. And I want to just say this, that this is me as a human being. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a work counselor of any sort. This is me as a human being saying, I have learned, I have been abused in my time. I have had all sorts of wrong things happen. And one thing I now know more than anything else, if I don't stop bad behavior, nobody's going to stop it. So, therefore, call it for what it is. Make sure this person, and what I would say to them is, hey, not only am I aware, but other people are aware of what you're doing. And I don't know if you think you're winning friends by doing it, but I've got news for you that it's not working very well. So be aware that this is, when you badmouth people, it doesn't necessarily make you popular. And the other thing is this. Why do you think the boss gives me work to delegate to you? Think about that. Because he trusts my work ethic, because he trusts that I will give you the stuff and train you to do the stuff you need to do. He trusts me. And by the way, if you keep going to him and telling him I'm useless, what are you telling him about himself? You may want to think about that one as well. All right, so Jonas is saying it's not about what you think, it's about how you communicate it. It is your actions that demonstrate your character and your words, not just your actions. So now Jonas asked, what if the boss is the abuser? Depends on what level of abuse, Jonas. But two things I would say. Number one is don't be a victim. If you've got a boss that is abusing you, what are the chances of them changing? Pretty slim to none. It's like marrying somebody in the hope that you'll be able to change them. It's like, hello. Are you kidding me? I used to think that. But the truth is, if your boss is an abuser, get out of that company. All right? It's like, don't keep that job. If your boss is an abuser. Now, the thing is, you have the choice to go and enlighten them and say, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm finding the way you talk to me a little bit condescending or whatever it is. But also be aware that people like that are also the same people who, can probably, badmouth you in the industry as well. So be aware that just getting out of their way might not be a bad idea. Okay, so Jonas are you going to let me know now, Jonas? Jonas is saying he's going to let me know about an incident that happened. So to me, it's like, if you are in an abusive situation at work, then, and it's your boss, I would say, quite honestly, from my experience, it is easier to get out, even if jobs are difficult. Or you have to say to yourself, the chances of this person ever changing are probably slim. Therefore, I now need to choose whether to put up with this abuse and pay my bills or get out of Dodge. That's a choice that you make. All right, Jonas, I'll wait until you finish the story before I talk to it, all right? I now believe that I had it happen. Oh, Nada's saying, when people make you feel guilty, is it my problem? Or do you mean when people make me feel guilty, is it my problem? I just want to make sure, because it's interesting how you worded that, Nada. Nobody. Yep. No, Nada, it's important that you understand that that wording, because it tells you things. All right, so here's the thing. Nobody makes you feel anything, right? That's a big lesson to learn. All right? Let me give you an example here. I've been sitting around in my house for 5 months doing diddly in this rented apartment. Suddenly, everything is happening. Suddenly, the final paint work is being done. The bathroom is being done. Everything's being done. And suddenly, I'm being told I will move on March 24th, let's say. Now, that's earlier than I expected. And now, all sorts of decisions have to be made in a hurry and all sorts of things. Nada, do I feel stressed? Are they making me feel stressed? Quite honestly, I say, they originally wanted to move, by the way, on the 26th, I think, was a Friday. And I immediately wrote back and said, no, Fridays don't work for me. I have other things I do on Fridays. It's my right. I don't have to accept it. This is my life you're playing with here. By the way, if I think that 3 weeks from now is too soon for me to move, just because it suits them, it might not suit me, I need to open my mouth and say something. So to me, this is about, and I'm laughing, I'm calling it for what it is, and I'm writing back, I'm going, it's amazing, I've been sitting here for 5 months, and now in the last month, suddenly everything needs to happen in a hurry. Well, hello, people. Nice try. I'll do it in the time that it takes. Yeah? I hear that you want this done by Monday, but it's not going to happen. I don't mind if they don't like me for it. I don't mind, right? Because it's like, hurry up and do nothing for 5 months, and now suddenly you want to put all this pressure on me. I'm not going to ruin my health for this. No, not what I do. Now, will I accommodate it as best I can? Yes. But I won't move on a Friday. I got 2 broadcasts that I do on a Friday, and sure as heck not going to be moving as well. So, and you guys, I know this sounds really strange, and you guys are more important to me than the move. Yeah, I don't want to disrupt that. Jonas is saying, all right, so what happened? Oh, Nada, do you get what I'm saying? Is people don't make you feel guilty. You feel guilty when people say certain things, right? A feeling is you, right? If you can remember that, anything you feel is on you. That's the easiest way that I have found. So I could feel stressed with all that's happening, Nada, or I can choose to go, excuse me, this is my little comfort zone here, and you guys don't get to get in here and mess with me. All right, so Nada, if you have an example of that one, I would love to talk to it, all right? Even if you want to write it, and I will do it anonymously much later on. But if you can think about this, nobody, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said that originally, nobody can make you feel anything, right? Nobody can make you feel anything. It's what you choose to do. If I feel angry, it's not that somebody made me feel angry, it is my reaction to what somebody said. If I feel this is unfair, that's because I have forgotten that life is unfair and they're entitled to do whatever they like. It's just like when you get that, when you get that in your mind, it changes life in such a big way. So Jonas is carrying on with his story. Let me go back and try and read what I can. And he's saying, we've had lots of different sorts of managers in the job where he has. And we ended up with a transfer from another theater. He works in a movie theater. He just got a promotion and he came in, and he was really acting, the maggot, I think, in certain ways. So, and Jonas is saying, I tried to befriend him. I told others to give him a fair chance, and I tried to be optimistic about the change and keep an open mind. Good. But one day, after less than a month of working with him, he calls me into his office for a performance review. Okay, and I got to wait for what happened after that. I think that office politics are pretty complicated, and it depends on a lot of things. But I also believe that there is a reason why management picked this person to be a boss. They must have thought that they were capable of doing it. I had somebody once end up being my boss, and I really didn't mind. I went a couple of steps above him, and I literally sat down and said, okay, I need some input here. and the CEO said to me, what's up, Sal? And I said, well, I got a bit of a situation and I want to know how to deal with it in a way that you will approve. You see, I think when you go and talk to, or find somebody else that's in higher management and talk to them, because to me, it's a really important thing to know. And I think most people, when they first get promoted, act a bit bigger than their boots. It's not their job to make friends. It's their job to get done what they've been told to get done. So that does make it difficult. Oh, okay, then great example. Well done, Nada. Nada's saying, I have examples. You pay for a service that lets you have a delivery service, like my groceries get delivered, right? And the service person gets grumpy because the building's hard to find. Or if I get somebody to care for a pet and they get mad at me for being difficult. Make you feel like you shouldn't have asked them or ordered from that company. Again, Nada, they didn't make you feel. The true words, that is, I felt I shouldn't have asked them or ordered from the company. And the truth is, I had it happen to me, right? Where somebody came to order the groceries and she bitched at me about something. And I didn't let her into my space, my mind space. And I said, I can hear that you are deeply troubled today, and for some reason you're lashing out at me. And that is unfortunate because I'm not used to that sort of service from the company. Today, I'm going to ignore it and believe that you're having a bad hair day. But if you ever talk to me like this again, I assure you the company is going to hear about it. And I closed the door. Okay. So Jonas is carrying on. Does that make sense now, that just before I carry on back to Jonas again? Right. I don't let it, I call it for what it is, but I don't have to be rude to her. So what I said was, I'm going to presume you're having a bad hair day and give you a pass today. And, I hear you're angry at me and I hear what you're saying, but today I'm going to ignore it. If you ever talk to me like that again, your company's going to hear. But I closed the door and I didn't let it affect me anymore. It's not my problem, Nada. It's their problem. Their mood is their problem. However, I did first of all check in with myself. Is what she is saying true? Have I done something wrong? And the answer was absolutely not. Then I went, okay, then I don't tolerate it. All right, so Jonas is saying, in the company where he works, I'm not going to mention what it is, Jonas, sometimes they end up with something called the Peter principle. It's Peter, not Peters, the Peter principle. Right, so if people don't know what that is, let me explain that. Drucker, I think, originally came up with that, if I'm correct, Peter Drucker. But anyway, the Peter principle is when you promote somebody, and this is what Drucker said, when you keep getting promoted, but the Peter principle is when you get promoted to a level of your incompetence. And once you get promoted to a level of your incompetence, you don't get promoted anymore. But the incompetence is the interesting thing here. All right. And so quite often people get promoted that shouldn't have been promoted because the bosses hope that they will, they expect you not to be perfect, but they hope that you will, learn to do the job. But every now and then the Peter principle applies. Does everybody understand that, what that is? You get promoted to the level of your incompetence. Okay, good. Great that you mentioned that, Jonas. So this is what he thinks has happened, is that this person has got promoted beyond their scale. That's not your call. It is the company's call. All right, so then he called Jonas in for a performance review, and he said he found me to be abrasive and impersonal, and that I don't get along with coworkers. And that is his opinion. And And my attitude would be, I'm sorry that you feel that way. That has not been my experience, but obviously then we do need to discuss it. Is there anybody in particular, that I need to work with? You see, I think, again, it's like when somebody says to me, well, they've been saying, I'll go, who has been saying? Well, I can't say. Well, if you can't say, then it's rumor, and I don't want to hear about it. In other words, and you'll excuse me on this comment, if you haven't got the sphericals to have this conversation out in the open, then I'm not going to play with it. All right? Jonas, I'd go back to this book, the situation with your boss. If your boss in your performance review said he found you abrasive and impersonal, then that needs to be quite a conversation. Jonas saying, I told him I don't feel comfortable with him doing my review as he doesn't have enough evidence to base these unsubstantiated assumptions upon. Yes. However, if you're saying that you don't feel, you're basically saying that he's lying. Good. And you asked him to give you some examples. That is absolutely the way to do it. I hear you, that it is your opinion. Doesn't have to be true, Jonas. Just be careful how you word it. I hear that it is your opinion that I am abrasive. Could you give me an example of that so I can understand? Or that I don't get on with my coworkers. I hear that's what you believe. Could you give me an example? I think it's wonderful that you ask for examples. The other thing is, I would also say, Jonas, that a performance review also affects my standing within the company, and because it's on record. And therefore, I need in writing what it is that you are not happy with and what it is you want changed. I'd get, to me, I'm a great believer, Jonas, even if it's a risk, even if it's a risk, I'm a great believer in get it in writing, because not many people, bullies included, are happy with things in writing. Because if you get it in writing, then you can go higher up the food chain and say, listen, I've worked for you guys for 2 years, and you know me to be, a dedicated staff member, and that I am a pretty personable person. This is what I got as a performance review, and this is after I tried to help him. What is going on here? Okay, so now the boss invited all of the staff from his previous theater to a Halloween party. Okay, I've got to hear more about that. All right, Kimmy's saying, I've had stuff happen to me at work because of gossip too. And my boss talked to me. I told him, this is work and I do not want to be involved, and I'm not in it. Yeah, I think, it's really important that the boss knows it's happening though. Oh, Jonas is saying that when he went to this Halloween party, the guests said that they didn't find him approachable because of the way he looked. That's their problem, not yours, Jonas. But Jonas was strong enough and had enough self-esteem to say, how did you know that? But you understand, I'm, if people find me unapproachable, that is, that's on them. Again, I would say, what would you have me do? What is it you want me to do? Pretend to be somebody that I'm not, or whatever, because to me, these are very hurtful comments without a lot of foundation. And, I'm not joking. If somebody said to me, people find, I am unapproachable for a lot of people. Do you know that, Jonas? I've had people say that to me. You scare the life out of me. And I go, good. Not my problem. Okay, so Jonas is saying that he asked him that question, and that the reply he got from the boss was he interviewed customers about him. Well, I want to tell you something, Jonas. This doesn't sound like a comfortable work environment. I would ask for it. I would ask, quite honestly, if I have a performance review with a staff member, and I'm saying things like that, I better have either a training program or I better have a course of action that I want to see. It is not enough for them just to say, you're not approachable. They need to be able to tell you in what ways do they want you to become more approachable. What is it specifically? And Jonas, I would imagine that a lot of, I'm not sure what the age is of this manager, but if you have pretty high self-esteem from my experience of you, and that would make them uncomfortable. The fact that you call them on stuff would make them uncomfortable. So this may not be an ideal working situation for you. Or you can hang in there and carry on doing the job and end up with the job. Again, it's like the example I gave at the beginning. All right, be aware that this is not necessarily it's not your problem. And so much, with all due respect, Jonas, so much of a working environment is subjective. All right. He may find you unapproachable, in which case, this whole thing about the transference. So he may find you unapproachable, and then therefore he pretends it's other people. Jonas is saying he cited an incident where we sold out a show, lined up, and no time for any meaningful customer interactions. I was instructed by another manager to just rip up tickets and let them in. No conversation. Okay, so you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. You obey the instructions of one manager only to be criticized by another. Did I understand that correctly? Is that fair? Of course it isn't. But does it happen? You bet it does. So, the trick is to laugh when you hear that and go, hey, I understand that hang on a second, I'm too warm here. That you would want me to talk to everybody, but hang on a second, I couldn't win in this situation. I'd just been given instructions by another manager to do X, Y, and Z. And if you like, why don't we call him in and he will confirm that. This isn't what I wanted to do. This is what I was told to do. So to have this come back on my employee review is to me something I can contest. And by the way, the other thing is this, Jonas, if they give you a performance review that you think is unfair, you do know that you have the right to counter it. And Jonas is saying, and isn't it funny, I've only worked with him one night and he somehow is qualified to evaluate me. How is that appropriate? Well, it obviously isn't. And it's very subjective. And therefore, but I would, I'd like to say, don't be the victim here. Say to him, hey, listen, you are entitled to evaluate me any way you choose. That is your right. However, you do know that I have the right to defend your evaluation, right? And I will, because I was instructed to do one thing, and you thinking I should have done another. And, right, and Jonas is saying that you were being defensive and you should accept what he has to say. I want to tell you something, Jonas. Of course he wants you to accept what he says. He doesn't want anybody contradicting him. Right? And you just go, yes, I'm sure that you would like me not to react to this. But I'm afraid when it's unfair, I have to. And this is unfair, in my view. Because I was instructed by another manager to do exactly what I did. Yeah, so Jonas, it makes you feel, you feel uncomfortable because it is uncomfortable. The question is, what do you want to do about it? All right? Because either you can wait it out and maybe in time, this will change, or it could get worse. And my feeling is that not all managers are all that they need to be. I'm certain I wasn't all I was meant to be. The same as how many parents have you heard say, gosh, I wish I trained for this job before I became a parent? And Jonas is saying, because I was astonished at how hard I tried for this company for the past 2 years, only to be judged by an outsider, I went well above his head. I spoke to corporate. Good for you. And corporate talked to the general manager, and the general manager talked to the manager. You see, that's your right. Well done, Jonas. I am very proud of you. Now, did you make any friends with the manager that criticized you? Hell no. He will not like it that you went above his head. No doubt about it. Right? Of course he did. Jonas is saying, and he treated me like utter crap after that. Of course he did. You got him into trouble. Doesn't mean you were wrong. And then he gossiped about me. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you were wrong. All right? It means you gave corporate a heads up as to what's happening. So nobody likes to be criticized, Jonas. So, and Jonas, if he's telling people that you and your girlfriend aren't right together, that is just his opinion. That is just his opinion, and he's entitled to it. I know that you know that. You've been on this program long enough with me to know that he's entitled to his opinion, and it should not change your relationship at all. And he has been going around telling everybody that he likes everybody except Jonas. Well, Jonas, corporate knows what's going on. All right? And from my experience, Jonas, he probably isn't going to be there that long if he treats people like that. And you may not be there. He might find reason to get rid of you. Would it be fair? No, not necessarily. But again, if that happens, I'd go back to HR and say, remember that guy that I had a problem with because he made a judgment about me without suitable time? He's now tried to fire me. And Jonas is saying that was all last year. I was unmedicated and I had anxiety attacks almost every day. And now again, here's the happy ending to the story. Everyone revolted against him. That's what I'm saying. Most people like that will get found out. By the way, I don't think that's a happy ending. honestly. I think it's a very sad ending that everybody revolted against him and he ended up quitting. However, it must have been something that you weren't surprised at. And that's why I say to you that, it is sad, isn't it? And nobody attended his Christmas party. Yeah, sad. But he brought it onto himself. Yes. And I want to tell you something, Jonas. I can remember when I was a manager, I had one member of staff that would outright lied to a client. And when I found out that the member of staff had done that, I called her in and I said to her, lying to clients is not something I can tolerate, quite honestly, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And what I'm going to do is this area that you lied about, I'm going to have you totally retrained in the facts of that situation. And I'm going to have you take a test and make sure that you pass the test. And then I'm going to put those results in your file. And I said, the reason I want you to get retrained and take the test, and when you pass the test, put it in your file, is because if you ever make this mistake again, I will have it on paper that you proved you knew this to be a factor. And therefore, I will fire you. And by the way, guess what? 6 months later, she did it again. And I said, you've got until Monday to give me your resignation or else I fire you on Monday. You know why? So Kimmy's saying I had to go to a superintendent of schools because I wasn't getting listened to. A bunch of people got fired. Yes, I think that the point here is bullies get away with things if people don't stand up to them. And that is the whole lesson here, right? Bullies get away with it because people don't stand up to them. And Jonas is saying people found him awkward, creepy, and strange. He would stand behind people and not say a word. And he blamed me as to why he was not liked. Yes. And, this is, again, people who blame other people for things, you see, people can say horrible things about me, and they do, right? I don't waste a lot of time on that. I don't waste a lot of time trying to prove people wrong or right. I just carry on being me. Yes, and I agree with you, Jonas, that overall he was just an immature and insecure man who tried to project his insecurities onto others. All right? And that's what happens with that sort of personality. But, they are people for whom we should feel sad because they don't know any better. So I actually can remember, Jonas, in my time, I remember one staff member coming in and sitting in my office and saying, you and I need to have a little chat. And I said, okay. And she said, I find the way you talk to me offensive. And I went, okay, tell me more. And she did. And when she finished, you know what I said, Jonas? Thank you. I'd come from another country and that was the way I'd been trained to talk. And I said, obviously, it's different here. So thank you for letting me know. I was appreciative. And so to me, it is about all of these stories, and the comments that Nada brought in as well, all right? We've got the same theme going on here. People will always have things to say about you. People will always tell lies about you. It's life. It happens. But it's what we do or not do about it. Right? Remember I told you that I had people come to me and say, Mama Sal, you need to go to this website because they're bad-mouthing you there. And I'm going, why would I even go there? Well, because they're bad-mouthing about you. And I'm going, I don't really care. You see, why would I give them the time of day? Because they're not affecting me. They're all, well, yes, it'll affect your viewers. And I'm saying, well, actually, the viewers I care about, it won't affect. The only viewers that it could possibly affect are people who don't know me. If somebody badmouths me to my regular viewers, what do I know? They know me better. They know I'm not perfect. They know I don't stand on some sort of pedestal or anything. But I want to tell you, they know me better. So it's not, why would I give those people room? But if my job depended on somebody else's viewpoint of me, and that viewpoint I thought was unfair, I have enough self-esteem, as Jonas did, to say, this is not right. And I need to document that. I need people higher up the line to know that this is not right and not fair. Now, whether the people up the line agree with you or the boss is the risk you take. But I have done it many times. And that is the important thing, all right, is do you care enough about yourself? So I want to go back to the viewer that wrote to me. Because what I want to say to this viewer is I think you've been handling it really well. I think you've stayed out of it as much as you can. And from what I can gather from what she went on to write, that this troublemaker has, been moved out of her immediate environment, which makes me think, did that happen after the boss had heard her complain that he moved her out of the way? A smart boss would have done. You see, what a smart boss will do is move that person out of that environment and see if the same thing happens in a new environment. And if so, what does he know? That is the troublemaker. Yes, isn't that true? Jonas is saying that the man was only 3 years older than me and acted as though he was above everybody and therefore above scrutiny. But it's not true, right? He was insecure, and rightly so. Kimmy is saying, Jeannie, that's why I went to the superintendent, all finger pointing and blaming, but the bullies got off because their status in the community. Yes, I want to tell you something. I had it happen within a major organization, volunteer organization, where I was very unfairly treated. And I was pretty high up in the organization, and something happened that was totally unforgivable. And I actually called together a whole group of people and said to them, I want to tell you I'm about to leave, and I want to make sure that you hear it from me and as to why. And the reason is, when this happened and you all knew this was not right and unfair, not one of you came to my defense. And not one of you came to support me in an intellectual way at all, or in an emotional way at all. And that is your right. I just need to tell you, I don't want to be involved in an organization that allows this to happen. And therefore I'm leaving. And I did. And they tried to sweet talk me out. I said, no, really. This is how you treat people. I don't fit into your mold. And you allow people to attack my character like this? No, I'm not interested. Jonas is saying, I believe it's very important that we question authority. Nobody is above the law, no matter how much experience they think they have. I am not someone who is docile and compliant. I think we got that message, Jonas. And this is the whole thing. That's, bullies will not survive around you because of that, because you will call them on it, Jonas. You are not somebody who's going to get abused, all right? You are going, you know what is right and what isn't. I think, let us give a moment though, Jonas, if you don't mind, let us give a moment to the people who don't know. Because that is the real issue. What if you don't know that it's not right to be treated like that? I go back to, Nada's comment, which is, what if you believe that staff members have the right to make you feel guilty? Well, they don't make you feel guilty. People were rude to you and you took it on is a different thing. But Nada, I am so proud of you to talk about it, because when you talk about it, you can probably see now that that they didn't make you feel guilty. You chose to feel guilty. I literally, when it happened to me, I just went, whoa, excuse me. I can hear you're really angry and upset about me. Or if they complain because my building is difficult to get to. Yes, I agree it is. And congratulations, you found it. I don't believe I have to move in order to shop at your shop. This is where I live. Next time it'll be much easier. All right, so Jeannie's saying one of my daughter's bullies threatened to push her down the stairs. Another brought dead animals to school. Right? It's horrible what people do. And Jonas is saying, I'm proud that we have this community to support one another. You mean this community of DearMamaSal? Jonas is saying it's truly empowering. Well, I want to tell you, like the viewer who wrote to me, about this boss story, that's what she was saying, that she's amazed how much she's learned just by being a DearMamaSal viewer. And I would like to say, Jeannie's saying she felt safe with the nuns. I want to tell you that, just because nuns are nuns doesn't mean they're necessarily safe people, or ministers or whatever. When I did a management leadership course, one of the things I would do is I'd put up a picture of a priest and a picture of a hippie, and I go, which one would you trust and why? And, I'd have people in groups discussing which one did they trust. And, it was amazing how many of them said the priest. And the reasons given was, well, because he's a man of God and he knows right from wrong and and at the end of it, I go, well, let me tell you the truth. The priest guy here, he murdered a nun. That's how reliable he is. And by the way, the hippie has five doctorates. He was an incredible guy. I can't remember who he was, but he had doctorates in everything. Rocket science and you name it. And I said, this is an incredibly smart guy. And by the way, he can still be a hippie. Me, I want to have lunch with this guy, not the priest. Right. So the way people look, when somebody says to me, well, the customers don't like the way you look. Really? Now there's a problem. And Jonas is quoting, please try to remember that what they believe, as well as what they do and cause you to endure, does not testify to your inferiority, but to their inhumanity. James Baldwin. I agree with that, all right? This is about, if I could give my viewers, the ability to protect themselves, I would be a happy person. I want to give one moment back to Jody, our admin. You all know, if you're regular viewers, that Jody has gone from somebody who survived cancer into somebody who then suffered from lymphedema and put on incredible pounds of weight on. And then, actually, I think I got to meet Jody just before she had a cancer operation and before the lymphedema really set in. But, if you've been watching our story, the one between Jody and myself for any length of time, you will know it was about then I asked her whether she actually wanted to die, because everything that I was hearing from her told me she was checking out mentally. And, that's her right, if that's what she wants to do. And she was pretty horrified that I asked that question. But she said, no, I don't want to die. And I said, good, then let me hold your hand because I'd like to see you live. And I will do whatever I can to do that. And if you remember, I've been, on the side, I think you all know, I've been doing various exercises literally to find out what can people who cannot walk do to get exercise. And you will remember I started off talking about this. If you just do arm rolls, it raises your aerobic ability and so forth. Well, here's the story that I want you to know about Jody. In order to get this operation that she needs, she had to lose a certain amount of weight and do a certain amount of exercise and keep to a certain diet. And Jody has been meeting all those benchmarks. And she talked to her doctor about what she's been doing with the arm rolls and everything. By the way, Jody, I found just doing this, like you're hitting cymbals, also works. Okay? Just so you know, because, I'm constantly trying what else works. Obviously doing this, like, what would that be like? A rolling action like this will also do it. But I found out doing this definitely works. I was trying that out. And doing this, like your drumming works. So cymbals works, drumming works, arm rolls work, right? It's amazing. Air boxing, yes, that works as well. You see, it's all about movement. But here's the good news that I wanted to share with you all about Jody. She went back to the doctor. She got the Wii, and I got the Wii and started to walk with it. And then Jody said she thought that maybe it would help her as well. So she got a Wii. And she went from very little exercise to now putting in, like 2,000 steps a day, and she can't walk, but she's doing the movement, but she's doing it the fun way. And so she took her results to her doctor for her checkup on whether or not she can have this operation. And the doctor was stunned at what she had done. Stunned. And even said, how did you do this? And it even inspired the doctor. So, as much as we hate the bullies in life and the insecurities that people have, we do not need to buy into it. We can choose our own path, right? And I am pretty certain you all know that a year ago, or even at Christmas time, when I got the Wii, I did not think it was going to work for me. I've got to be quite honest. I really didn't think it would. And I think some of you know that last week I managed to walk a complete marathon, 56,000 steps during the week. I was pretty shocked, I don't mind telling you. And if you had told me back in December, Sal, you're going to do 56,000 steps in a week, I would have said that's 8,000 a day. There is no way I'm going to do 8,000 a day in winter, living as I am at the moment in a 1-bedroom plus den apartment. There is no way I'm going to do that. But I did, and I didn't leave the apartment. And I literally have had people who are marathon runners say to me, you did this in an apartment without going out? And I go, yeah. And they go, how? I said, I stood still and did it. You see, Jody wants to get well. That's very obvious to me that she wants to get well. All right? Everything that she does tells me she wants to do that. Nada wants to understand more about what's happening in her mindset. Why? She asks good questions. How do I stop feeling guilty? And the answer is you stop buying into people's guilt trips on you, right? Because they don't make you feel guilty. You accept it. You hear something and you suck it in and you go, "Why I'm a bad person." When in fact, I'm pretty sure that deep down somewhere, you knew that that wasn't your stuff to worry about. It's their stuff. Hey, if you can learn to laugh, it helps. You go, "Yeah, it is quite difficult to get to this building. Well done. You get a bonus point for finding it the first time. By the way, it's so easy at the second." Like everything else in life, everything is easy to do once you know how to do it. And finding this building will no longer be a problem to you because you found it. Well done. You see, what happens is people get angry when things don't go their way. And they transfer that anger to people around them. I've got a present for you all. Hang on a second. Hold on 1 second. So you will all remember that I painted a picture while I was here. And some of you may remember that I decided I wanted to frame it because I wanted it as a memory of my time here. I thought I'd show you. This is the framed picture. Right? So whenever you see this picture in my home, I'm probably going to take the glass off it because I don't like the glass in front of it. But whenever you see this picture in my home, I hope you will remember that it's down on a piece of Amazon box that came here. No fancy canvases or anything else. I just painted it on an Amazon box. And so why am I mentioning that? The reason I'm mentioning it is because this blankie would not have been finished unless Rinsky took the risk of trying it and finished it. And she made a point of saying it's not perfect, and it isn't. But it is perfect to me. Why? I know that it is made with love. And I know that whenever I'm feeling a little cool in my new home, I'm going to put it over my shoulders, or when I'm sitting up in bed, which I'll be able to do again, I will put it over my shoulders, and guess what I will be wrapped in? Love. So, you look at these things and you go, life is about the memories that we make. If we allow people to bully us, then they win. It is my experience that if you want to not have people bullying you, you need to put down a boundary that says, I am not the bullying sort of person that you'd like me to be. Right? And that's called a boundary. Do you think that Jonas's boss would be pretty angry for what he did, but did Jonas have every right to do what he did? Absolutely. You have the right to be treated fairly. And again, I go back to the stories about the Como incidents and that sort of stuff. You go, excuse me, somebody talks to you in an inappropriate way, just because they are your boss does not mean that you have to sit there and take it. You have the right, to say, excuse me, that is an inappropriate conversation, so I need to go right now. And if you would like to rethink that and give me your apology later, I would appreciate it. And leave. I am pretty certain that person's never going to talk to you that way again. And yes, Kimmy's saying that, you know, Kimmy learned to do it with her family members. Yeah, I have as well. Jeannie's saying, I think the cancel culture is a type of bullying. I agree with you as well. I do agree with you that the cancel culture is also a type of bullying. And I want to tell you that social media has given rise to a lot of bullying because people aren't getting called on it. But again, work out who you need to react to. Somebody threatening my life, I react to. Somebody saying, I'm going to take you out, I react to. Why? That's a federal offense. That's not a little thing. I don't care if they didn't realize what they were saying. You know, that's not the point. The point is you threatened my life and I took a screenshot to prove it. Hello? You know? And so to me, it's like, I don't put up with it. So you look at it, hang on a second, Kimmy, let me give you the official definition. I could give you my version of it, but it's never the right, okay. Here you go, Kimmy. The official definition of cancel culture is a modern form of ostracism, which is somebody is thrust out of a social or professional circle, whether it's online, on social media, or in person. Those who are subjected to this ostracism are being said to be cancelled. Now, ostracism is throwing, you know, is being isolated, if you like. They say it's, you know, getting cancelled. How about this one? Cancel is getting a new use. Canceling and cancel culture have to do with the removing of support for public figures in response to their objectionable behavior or opinions. Can also include boycotts or refusal to promote their work. How about, Kimmy, if I can give you an example that may make sense. You know that people don't like the way that a certain company is. Oh, let me give you, hang on, trying to find my screen back again. I've lost me. And there we go. Kim, let me put it this way. Let's say, you know, that there's that guy that, I think it's the My Pillow guy that's been in the news a lot recently for views that he had. Now, a lot of other people will say that we want to, you know, boycott buying anything from My Pillow because of that guy's views. That would be canceling under that sense. All right, Jeannie's saying banning books is a huge thing that starts to destroy culture. Yeah, I was amazed when Enid Blyton, the Noddy books from England, that they were cancelled out, you know, just scary to me. I'm going, seriously, Noddy? You know? But, you know, society changed. And so I've got to say that some Dr. Seuss books are getting banned. All right. And the reason is because society has changed. I was absolutely horrified when I heard that. I was horrified when the Noddy books were banned. You know, so, but as culture changes and our views on things, as I said, why was the palace setting up an investigation into the Meghan Duchess of Sussex thing and not into the Prince Andrew thing? Weird. But not my business. I can be confused and I can call it for what I see it to be, which is a double standard, but it actually is what it is. And so I think that we all need to be very clear on what we will accept in our lives and what we won't. Right? And that is what I would encourage you to do. Jonas, well done. Well done. Jody, well done. And showing a doctor. As I said, it made me laugh, Jody, when you told me about your doctor, because it was like my doctor poo-pooing my fitness watch until every time I went for my checkup, he'd ask me how I am, and I'd go, hang on a second. Well, my resting heart rate over the last month has continued to be 59 beats per minute. Make your own decision. Oh, well, I don't trust these things. I said, that's fine. I do. It's a benchmark. Here's my benchmark, 59 beats a minute at 73. Think about that, buddy. What must I be doing right to have a resting heart rate of 59 at the age of 73? And so I look at it and go, do I have the right to talk back to my doctor? Yeah, I believe that. I do it regularly. Yeah, he'll say, he tries to describe something that's going on, and he'll go, blah, 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 long words, blah, 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 even longer word, blah, and I let him finish, and I go, it was fascinating. Fascinating. Now, would you mind putting that in English? And he's saying, well, it was in English, Sal. And I go, yeah, that was Dr. English. I'd like it in Sal English now. He said, you know what I meant. And I said, yeah, I know what you meant, but put it in Sal English. I want to make sure I know. That's my body you're talking about, and my health and my ability to live. I'd like to make sure I understand it. And all that gobbledygook, it makes you very intelligent, but it doesn't help me one bit. Jody's saying sometimes we have to show them what's what. Yep. And so I thank the viewers time and time. Thank you for writing to me about these two stories. Nada, thank you for your input. Jonas, thank you for your input. Jody, thank you for your good news. You see, what makes Dear Mama Sal help people is not me, it is you. It is what's happening in reality every day. And the problem is people have not been taught how to cope with that. Right? If Nada had grown up with somebody saying, that's not your problem, that's their problem. Every time anybody tried to lay a guilt trip on her, Nada would not feel guilty about stuff. But obviously in the environment that Nada grew up, and I grew up in the same one, Nada, so believe you me, I was not this strong when I was your age or younger. It was just like I had to learn this stuff. And that's why I said, if I do nothing else on YouTube, I want to save the next generation the time it took me to learn all this stuff. And Jeannie's saying, in retaliation, I just purchased a Dr. Seuss necklace with a saying by him. I intend to wear it a lot. Yes. And so think about that. We have so many rights that we are not aware of. We do not have the right to allow people to abuse our minds. Right? That's not a right that they have, regardless of their title. That day that I argued back to the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, I knew that I would get fired. Right? Why? Because they don't like it when you call them on their stuff. And when you talk to me like a 4-year-old, I am going to call you on your stuff. And I know what I don't feel a victim to the fact I got fired. But the joke was when they came to fire me, they asked me to, pack up my stuff and leave. And I said, oh, no, I'm not going to be doing that. What do you mean? I said, did you bring a check then for 3 months wages? And they said, what? And I said, I got a contract. I'm under contract to you. And the contract includes a 3-month severance section. So unless you've got a check with you for 3 months worth of pay, I'm not packing up my stuff and leaving. but the CEO wants you gone. I said, I'm sure, and I want Brad Pitt. Doesn't mean I'm going to get him. So come to me with a check for 3 months and I will leave immediately. Otherwise, I'm going to stay on for 3 months. So do I think, did I know it wasn't going to be pleasant? Sure. I'm aware. But the truth is, I have rights. And just because you're big and powerful does not give you the right to abuse me. And that is what is the lesson we all need to teach ourselves, each other, and everybody we know. That we allow people to abuse us because we were not taught how to defend ourselves against that. And so please remember this. People do not abuse you. You allow them. Now, I am the first one to say that people who are in abusive relationships should not be punished. Because the truth is, they don't know how to get out. All right? They don't know because nobody taught them. So I don't blame abused women or men for not getting out. And that's the other side to the story. Don't blame people for what they haven't been taught. Jonas, I'm certain that the manager learned a lesson after he learned that that way he was doing it wasn't working. So yes, I agree with Jonas. You weren't put here to prove your self-worth. It isn't your purpose. You have worth, period. And by the way, who you are is enough as you are. You don't have to change the way you look, Jonas, so that people will find you more approachable. I am certain that you are very approachable to people who choose to approach you, or I've never found you unapproachable here. I got to tell you that. You've always been very forthcoming. And so that tells me that, it's somebody else's problem, not yours, really. And everybody has the right to disagree with you. That is equally important. Equally important. It is not necessary for everybody to like you or to agree with everything that you say. But it doesn't mean it should affect you or your mood. That space that's called your mind is your business, nobody else's. So this is DearMamaSal saying thank you so much for helping me through this one. It's a big one, isn't it? And I want to thank you for the viewers who wrote their letters, and please keep the letters coming because it definitely helps me see what topics we need to be working on. This is DearMamaSal saying, I'm going to see you this evening where I'm going to be talking about coping with life. And my life is changing by the moment at the moment. And we'll see you then. This is DearMamaSal saying, thanks for being here and bye-bye for now. Maybe.